Welcome to the On the Spot podcast, where we talk to people from all walks of life and recovery. The Spot is a sober lounge which hosts a variety of meetings daily, a vape shop, custom apparel store, and an overall good place to come and be in a positive environment. They also have a nonprofit which does a lot of good for people inside and outside of the rooms. It's located off of 43rd and Northern in Phoenix. I definitely recommend you go check it out. Today's guest, honestly, I do not know a whole lot about this person, so it'll be interesting to get to learn and find out more about her along with whoever is listening. But from what I do know, she's very involved not only there, but in recovery in general. She plans a lot of events for the fellowship she's a part of, does a lot of service work, sponsors quite a few women, and is married to an awesome guy who is also responsible for a lot of the events that are hosted at the Spot. I've seen her around quite a bit and know she works a strong program, has a very interesting story, which we definitely will get to. This is Ashley, and she has taken the time out of her busy life today to talk with us. So welcome, first and foremost. I know you're celebrating a birthday today, so congrats on that, and thanks for doing this today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Today's been a great day. Nothing can stop me. I'm very blessed.
That is awesome. So happy 6 years, right?
Yep, 6 years.
That is fucking amazing. Well, I kind of want to dive right in. How did you end up becoming so involved in CMA, and how important is it for people to get involved in the fellowship aspect of things, in your opinion? How important is that for you in your program?
Okay. So I got sober in 2020, when it was COVID and there was lockdown. And there was only one meeting that was a in-person meeting, and it was in a park. And so I started chairing meetings there. And then I started getting into liaison positions and started learning what CMA, the different levels of CMA there was, but on the district level, right? And then I had a death of a really close friend that I had known since addiction, that we were trying to get sober together. And instead of listening to my itty bitty shitty committee, right, which makes you, I don't know why when someone dies, you're like, I want to get high and forget all these feelings, right? I dove into service work and I learned about the inverted triangle, right? Home groups, and then a district area, and then GSC, or yeah, GSC. And so I started to get involved on all different types of levels. And I love it. I love CMA. I love what we do. I know the ins and outs of how we're run and what we do. I am a delegate, so I am excited about that service commitment because I get to go visit all of the different home groups across Arizona and help them understand a little bit about how CMA does things, right? And why we use seven tradition, what we use it for, which is a big thing in CMA. A lot of people don't understand what the seven tradition is actually used for, I've come to realize.
Yeah, they think it's just rent and coffee and all that, but no, there's a lot more that goes into it. I'm sure more than I even know. I mean, you got to buy all sorts of stuff, and I mean, it goes towards like creating H&I positions, helping people, you know what I'm saying, when they get out, resources for people. So yeah, I know you're super involved. I imagine that because you're so involved in CMA and the planning of things, that you probably require that of your sponsees, I would imagine. That I mean, which is a great thing because I'm part of a men's group where we have to have, a service commitment home group and an H&I and a sponsor and be sponsoring people. Yeah, I definitely feel that that if you're not, you need to be as involved in your recovery as you were in your addiction. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's an awesome thing. What were some of the best events you've ever planned? Like, what were some of your favorite that stand out to you?
Let's see. Some of my favorite that stood out to me. I like I like the slip and slide kickball. That's my favorite every year. I love it. I love at first I am a messed up human because when people slip and fall, I love it. I just love it. Right now, we're planning a cool event. I won't say what it is, but it's super cool and it's different. And I don't think it's been done before. And I'm excited about that one. And New Year's Eve. I like New Year's Eve. Just getting newcomers involved and giving them a place to go on New Year's, which a lot of people associate with drinking and getting high, and giving them a place to go and hang out for a couple of hours and fellowship is an amazing, amazing time.
And I mean, I'm gonna go on record and say that I think CMA has the funnest events out of all the fellowships. You know what I'm saying? I think that they're the best. That's the best events. You know, I mean, if you leave it up to a bunch of tweakers, you're gonna have a lot of energy, a lot of fun. I mean, I was a fentanyl addict, but I mean, I also smoked meth. You know, and like I gotta say, the tweakers definitely a lot more fun. You know what I'm saying? The fentanyl people, we just kind of slept a lot. The tweakers, they got into some adventures out there. You know. But, so tell us, how did you get 6 years? Where did it all begin? What did your journey look like?
Okay. So, I mean, I was an addict in the slopes, but it started back home in Massachusetts. When I came here, I was actually sober and then I got introduced to meth and I thought it's not my drug of choice and I was wrong. So, when I got sober, it's because I got arrested. I had 12 years over my head if I had gotten caught with any drugs. However, I gave all my stuff away. And so I got arrested because I absconded and they gave me reach out instead of prison time. And so I went to Crossroads. And that was the first time I ever got introduced to the program. Reading the book was difficult for me at first, especially during the lockdown. I didn't have anybody but the women in the program in Crossroads to help me understand it, and they didn't understand it themselves. So it took me a while to get through that book, but that's okay. But so I fell I just fell in love with the program and having a way out. I spent 20 years in addiction. From 9 to 29, I was an addict of all different magnitudes. You name it, I did it, right? And I was trying to escape my trauma and everything that had happened to me. I mean, I've been on my own since a young age, and so I had to grow up really quickly. And so when I came into this program, I just wanted a different life. And I had lost my daughter and I was struggling with it. And so, I mean, I built a life for myself that I never thought I could have. I was one of those addicts that wanted to die in my addiction because I didn't want to live anymore. And I did uppers and downers. So it was a gamble. Every day was a gamble for me.
Yeah, I mean, and, to backtrack a little, I know you said you got reach out, which is basically, for those of for the people out there who don't know, reach out is a program that they have in Arizona where if you go to jail for a drug related crime, and you're eligible, instead of jail time, there is a possibility that a rehab could come pick you up and they'll send you to rehab and that becomes part of your sentence, right? Basically. So you basically have to complete this treatment. Now, the funny thing is like you never know when they're coming. They just tell you, yeah, you got reach out, and it could be a day, it could be 3 weeks. They could come the day before your release date and pick you up. You have no clue. Yeah, I mean, I remember when the last time I got arrested, I was not eligible for reach out because it was for an escape charge. So they wouldn't even move me to like a pod, like a working pod. So I just had to sit there, which sucked. I was like begging for reach out, you know? And then I went to New Freedom and just fucked that up anyway. So I mean, I'm kind of glad that I didn't. You know, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. I probably would have absconded and gotten in a lot more trouble. Um, so, all right. So you said you're from Massachusetts?
Yep.
What part?
New Bedford. It's 45 minutes from Boston.
Okay. And so how is the scene there? I guess like what you would say. I mean, addiction is like the same everywhere, I suppose. But like, was it different there than it is was it when you came to Arizona?
So the city I came from, it took 45 minutes to walk from one end to the other, right? So everyone I knew was in addiction, whether they were alcoholics, crackheads, heroin addicts. Meth wasn't a thing. It's a thing now, but it wasn't then. But I mean, literally everyone I knew was an addict in some sort of way. My brothers struggled with it. They're both still struggling with it. But no, my parents sectioned me. That's a Massachusetts term. So they petitioned for me to go to a program for 9 months where I could not leave. It was a lockdown facility. And it was like a daycare because all we did was listen to music and talk about our feelings. There was no sobriety motivation, right? And so when I was ready to leave there, my brother lived out here. And so I told my parents I didn't want to go home, and they sent me on a plane and sent me here, and I've been here ever since. But the scene is different. It's real hard to be homeless in a city where you get 3 feet of snow. I mean, I made an igloo once. That was cool. but it's not. It's not the business.
No, I'd imagine not. And yeah, and I mean, being homeless here, I mean, the summer is horrible, you know? I mean, 'cause yeah, I was homeless here for quite some time myself and in Sunny Slope. And yeah, I mean, man, the summers, I mean, I think I knew 3 people that were homeless that summer that died of some sort of dehydration or like heat exhaustion, you know, in one summer. I was like, damn, dude, like I need to do something with my life. It took me another year, but like, you know what I'm saying? I sat down, I was like, shit, I gotta change something. Not today. But you know,
Yeah, I'll do it
so
tomorrow.
how did yeah, maybe tomorrow. So how did you go from being homeless here to like what were the steps you took? Obviously, I mean, you probably went to some sort of rehab, I'd imagine.
For what?
After you went to jail, you went to Crossroads. I mean, after that, did you go right into like not a rehab, but like a sober living of some sort or like a program afterwards?
So yeah, I did 2 months in Crossroads, and then I went to a sober living right away and went straight into work.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I know it's difficult in sober living because I know that's like what a lot of newcomers, I mean, I guess that's like one of their biggest complaints is they don't want to live with like a bunch of other dudes or a bunch of other women. And like, you know, they have all these restrictions and rules. And I was just like, dude, it's way better than jail. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's way better. But yeah, how long were you in sober living for? And like, what was your experience like there?
So I got lucky. I went to this small sober living and not one of these big ones like Oxford House and all that. This sober living actually is no longer in business. She up and moved to New Mexico. I love that lady. She was one of my favorite people. But I got lucky and I only had 2 roommates. And the house manager, which was the owner of the house. And I was there for about 10, 11 months, and then I rented a room, and then, yeah, that was cool too. I rented a room actually with, some people from New Freedom that I love and care for dearly.
Yeah, New Freedom's a great place. I was there twice. I liked it so much I went back. But so all right, I know you met your husband in the program. How did you guys wind up meeting?
Funny story, actually. So his best friend, was in ENF, and I've been in ENF since 21. And so he saw me at a meeting. I was chairing it, and he wanted to talk to me and was afraid to, I guess. And so she was in ENF with me, and she's like, "Show up to this meeting." And then from there, it was a wrap. Like, I found my best friend, the love of my life. Like, I can't see my life without him, you know? But it's funny that when he says that he was afraid to talk to me, I was like, "Why? I'm not intimidating at all." A little bit.
Can't picture that. He MCs events for like hundreds of people. He has no problem getting in front of groups of strangers telling his like the weirdest parts of his life, but like he was scared to talk to you. That's crazy. That's awesome. So I mean, you guys were recently married too, right?
Yeah, in October.
That is awesome. What was so would you say that like that was something that like the relationship you have today and like I want to say this for the newcomer, you know what I'm saying, who's out there and they're lonely and they're like this will never happen for me. It does happen, you know? The promises do come true. We do get to have meaningful relationships and they come with time. It's not like it doesn't happen right away, right? Like was this something that you even pictured happening at the beginning of your recovery?
No, not at all. Actually, I was dead set that I was never going to get married. It was a choice that I made for a long time, and I just didn't want to do it. I felt like it was a lot of work and it's just a piece of paper. But we were together for 3 years before we decided to tie the knot, you know? We got to know each other, we learned our communication habits, and we built our relationship. And it does take change, right? Changing who you are to be in a relationship with the person that you want to be in a relationship. Compromise is a thing. You got to compromise on some things. Not saying to change exactly who you are because that's not okay, but to help your relationship, definitely, better yourself so that you have a better relationship. Does that make sense?
No, 100% sense. Uh, and I think that's important, you know? I think you wanna be with somebody that, like, that y'all's life kind of aligns, like what you guys want both kind of align. You guys both have the same goal, and that's important in any relationship. And I just think it's cool that you guys found each other. What is ENF? Is that like a home group of some sort that you were in?
That's event and fundraisers, the events that we put on.
That is awesome. So see, newcomers out there, get involved. You might meet your future husband or wife, You might meet your Miles. But yeah, no, I think it's incredible what you guys do for the fellowship and how involved you guys are. What do you have any H&Is going on right now? Or I mean, besides events, I mean, I'm imagining you're super busy with work and all the other stuff you do. But do you still make time to do H&Is, or like is that something that you just kind of replace with the fundraising and the events part of things?
Okay, so I am the business chair of HNI. I do not currently run an HNI. No, but my sponsees do. I don't force them to do service work because it comes to you when you're ready for it. But I do suggest taking on an HNI. It's very rewarding. I did do an HNI for a while. But I have so many different service commitments that I do on all the levels that it's hard to commit to an HNI, especially when I have to work 12 to 14 hours some days.
Yeah. So, what do you do for a living when you're not doing everything program related? Like what is your 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or
Okay, so it's a little complicated. I work for a trucking company, but I am contracted to work at Union Pacific Railroad. And so I am the ops. I'm in ops, so I do a lot of computer work, but we unload and load cargo. And we put them on chassis and I outgate them and they go to the customers, all that. And I also got certified to operate the crane as a backup as well.
that is so awesome. You can operate a crane. And when
Yeah.
you say you work at the Union Pacific Railroad company, I like I said, you told me that on the phone. I picture like your boss being like a dude from like 1918 with like a monocle, a big bushy mustache, and like a top hat. And he like comes in the office like swinging a pocket watch. Like I picture the Monopoly guy. Like when you say you work for the Union Pacific Railroad Company. Um, yeah, I mean, is that something that you do? Is that something you do from the office?
It can be both. I do a lot of remote work when I don't need to be here, but when I need to be here and the drivers are here, I have to be here. I get here at 4:30 in the morning typically.
Man, yeah, because I was gonna say, I would imagine like the office work part of stuff is something you could probably do remote, but the crane operating stuff, I would hope you weren't doing that remote. Like
Yeah.
that would be terrible. I would really like the person driving the crane to be present in
Yeah.
person for that specific job. So yeah, so that's super cool. What do you how many sponsees do you have right now? And usually when if there's anybody out there, I don't know that this show reaches very many people in active addiction. It's probably more reaching people like newcomers. And if anybody out there that wants to get involved in service work or anything like that, you'd be the person, like any women out there that want to get involved in CMA, any kind of H&I or whatever, you'd probably be the person to talk to, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I could, yeah, and I could definitely direct them to where to go because I've sat on all the different committees. You know, I have all the contacts right now. But yeah, I have a total of I think five sponsees. I did have more, but they left Crossroads and haven't called me. So there's that.
And that happens. I always I mean, even with me, like I've been I'm coming up on 2 years next month, no fronts, but like I this time around because I had relapsed before I was sober a long time ago for a couple years and I was sponsoring guys that time who are like still sober today, like they didn't relapse, they're still sober. But this time, when I feel better about my recovery, I haven't gotten a single person through the steps. But I've stayed sober, and I mean, I guess that's what counts. That's what my sponsor says anyway. Like, in the book, it talks about how Bill, like, was upset and his wife was like, "Well, who cares that they're all gone? You're still sober," you know? That's how you kinda have to look at it sometimes, I guess, you know? But that's crazy. Sorry, you said you guys were planning a new event that you can't really talk about too much. When is that gonna be? When is that gonna be?
Around Easter. Around
That is awesome. That is awesome. I remember when you guys did the dating game at the spot. That was really, really cool. When Miles when you guys did the tweaker dating game, that was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen in my life.
that that event coming up. That event is coming up at the spot February 7th, I want to say.
That is super cool. So yeah, I also want to kind of jump a little bit backwards in your story, if that's cool. I know you said you were in jail here and you were facing 12 years. But instead they decided to give you reach out. I'm assuming that wasn't your first time in jail?
No. No. You should have seen my application for my fingerprint clearance card. It was long. It was thick. Um, between here and Massachusetts, I want to say I've had 36 arrests. A lot. A lot.
Wow. And the reason I say that is because I know it can be like coming from experience, it can definitely be demoralizing and it can feel like a huge setback when you first get sober, having a record or like having been arrested so many times. Do you have any advice for the newcomer that's out there that like is trying to find a good job but can't because of their record, or like is trying to get a fingerprint clearance card and don't know the resources that are available to do that? Do you have any words of advice for someone out there that might be in that position that, is kind of feeling a little disheartened with their situation?
To be honest with you, if you look in the right place, there are a lot of second chance companies. Like the company I work for is a second chance company. They don't, as long as you don't have any like embezzlement, you know what I mean? Like they're not going to care. Drugs, they're not going to care as long as you're sober, right? And fingerprint clearance card, I got denied at first, which was disheartening. And then I went through the process and I got all the paperwork, and it is a process. And you have to write out exactly what happened during each arrest. Um, and and it can look like a lot, but it's rewarding. After 5 years from your last arrest, you can even bump up to a level 1 fingerprint clearance card, which means you can work with children. And that's what I did before I worked here. So we have a process that is very disheartening and it's long, but it's very rewarding in the end. But I'm just saying, there are a lot of second chance companies. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. It took me a while to get my first job. It took me, I don't know, 7 months to finally get someone to hire me. It took like a week before the sober living was going to kick me out is when I got the job. You know, it's not easy. No one ever said that this was going to be easy, but we really do have to chase our recovery like we chase the dope man.
Absolutely. And I know you were saying that like, you were in Crossroads and then you were in a sober living. To the newcomers that are out there that are in a sober living situation, one of the hardest things is to stay sober in that situation when you're like fed up, when you're dealing with so much stuff. Not only are you dealing with like the fact that it's hard to find a job, that you're broke, you have all these chores to do, you got to have structure at meetings, but you also got to deal with all the different personalities in the house. How were you able to overcome that situation?
Um, I I went to a lot of meetings. I talked about it in meeting, talked about it with my sponsor, and I prayed about it, right? Because sometimes, and my sponsor drilled this into me, is sometimes something you see in someone else that you don't like is something you see in yourself that you don't like. And maybe you need to change in order to help other people change, be the example, right? I think BMO says that too.
Says a lot of stuff. He's my sponsor, and I just tune up. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, you don't.
No,
You
I don't.
stop it.
BMO, this is the first time that I've actually like, called my sponsor, asked for relationship advice, asked for advice on this. I mean, I think I called him too much at first. I think I annoyed him, to be completely honest. probably for a lot longer than I should have. But yeah, no, and I agree. Whenever I notice something in someone else that upsets me, because I work in the customer service industry, whenever I notice something about a customer that's irritating to me, I notice it's something that I've either struggled with in the past or am currently struggling with, like a character defect, you know? If they're short tempered or rude to me, you know, like, I mean, it's something that I feel on the inside that I don't necessarily show on the outside, but like I get irritated rather easily with people in certain situations. I don't show it, but like I do get that way, you know? And then I get upset that these people are being some sort of way to me, you know, like the customers are being rude to me. And I can't be rude back, you know? Like I can't tell them to like shut the fuck up and stuff because like I'll probably get fired, rightfully so. But
I mean, you could, but there'd be consequences.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like the other day, there was this group of people that came in. They ordered one lunch between three people, split it, and then on the way out, they were like, "Tell your chef that it needs more salt." I'm like, first of all, I work at a ramen bar, and it's a corporate ramen bar. I think you mean line cook because there's not a chef in this entire building, and if there was, like, he probably wouldn't give a fuck like what you have to say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he'd probably be more worried about his line cook showing up so drunk to work that they don't cut their hands off. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so in your position, do you work with a lot of customers or do you work more with or do you work direct to client, like direct to customers, businesses and other people that are like moving freight?
So it's a little bit of everything. So I deal with imports and exports. So what's coming in and going to the customer and what's going out to California or wherever else it's going, right? Mainly California. But a lot of emails, I have to deal with the owner of the container and the customers, and I have to make sure everything's right on my end. And to be honest with you, I use Chat GPT sometimes to figure out how I want to say that because I may not be the nicest sometimes via email. So I Chat GPT that because I'm annoyed with them already because I've said it like 3 times, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, and I completely understand that. Like at my last job, I was in the same position where I used to have to write like professional emails to people, and I text the way that I talk, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I guess it can come off rude in like a professional setting, and I like never knew that, you know. So I would get in trouble all the for, you know, in emails, like not wording things the right way, I suppose. Um, so yeah, Chat GPT and Perplexity, especially Perplexity, has been like a huge was a huge help to me. I use ChatGPT and I say thank you to it and shit. I say thank you to Waymos because when AI takes over, I want it to like remember me as one of the nice ones, and I want it to put me in like a good human camp. Like, you know what I'm saying? For the world. Like I want to be like, he's one of the good ones. So yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible that you got 6 years and uh all right. So having a this is another question that I probably should have used ChatGPT to Word because, like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fuck it up. But so you have a husband that's in recovery. You're in recovery. What is the main difference that you notice in the struggles that men face versus the struggles that women face, like either early in recovery or later in recovery? Like, what is the main difference for between in the struggles that people might face?
Okay. So with men, I've noticed, right? It is hard for them to talk about their sexual trauma that they've been through because they have this perception. I think it's just a men thing. Like they have this perception that they have to be strong. They can't show emotions and they can't talk about things like that because then people will see them some sort of way. And women, on the other hand, talk about it freely and we still get judged, but we're less likely to let it affect us. However, for me personally, mental health has been my issue, right? Talking about it. I feel like sometimes it's a stigma to talk about your mental health issues in recovery. And I feel like people judge you on your mental health issues, but it's a very real thing, right? And it's there. And I do have a lot of mental health issues. I lived through sex trafficking, right? And that's going to come with a lot of fucked upness, right? That I have to work through. And it's taken some time and I'm finally okay with myself, right? But I do still struggle with like night terrors and shit like that, right? Because of it. And that's something that probably will never go away. Another thing is talking about all of our partners that we had. A lot of women and men sold themselves on the street to make money. It's a thing. It's a thing, especially with meth. It's a thing, and I feel like men are less inclined to talk about it as women are like, yeah, I had all these jobs, it's very backwards. Like, we should be able to talk about anything that we need to talk about and not get judged for it.
100% agree. And and it's crazy because I think, I don't know, it might, in the lifestyle we were living, like the homeless, drug addict, all that shit. And I mean, a lot of us have childhood trauma, a sexual trauma too. But I mean, living a homeless, drug addict lifestyle, the sexual trauma stuff and the selling yourself stuff is a lot more common in men than people might think. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? When you think that, you would think, oh, that's probably just an issue that a lot more women have. No, it's an issue that dudes have too. I know dudes that completely consider themselves straight that like have sold themselves for dope in the past, or to make money to get drugs. And it's not something that like a lot of them will talk about, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that it's probably really difficult for them to talk about. And I've noticed that guys have it's a lot easier for a guy to say, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling this than it is for them to be like, oh, well, all the sexual trauma in the past. So I get what you're saying. And I completely understand where you're coming from on that. Yeah. And I think it's important also that if, the mental health thing, I think that a lot of people look down on like going to therapy or like taking medication for something mental health related. I think it's another tool. I think God puts all these things in our lives, all these tools for us to use. You know what I'm saying? To get better as a person. That's the ultimate goal at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is the ultimate goal, and therapy is there. It's there to help you be better. For 4 years, I was in therapy before I could control my emotions.
And that's amazing, and I think it's a huge I think that, it's a huge step in the right direction for anyone out there that's considering it or that thinks they might need it. I say go for it, you're not gonna hear anything in therapy that contradicts anything you hear in the rooms. You know what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of people are I think, like, a lot of people come from a school of thought where, like, all you need is the 12 steps. Yeah, that's true. That's gonna handle a lot of your issues, but there's some stuff that, like, the rooms don't tackle or that you're not comfortable sharing in the rooms, that, like, there is a safe place for you to go and do that, and I encourage people to take advantage of that?
Right. Exactly.
So, alright, I know you said struggle for me getting sober, and I know because I know you've been to jail a lot too. You've gotten arrested a lot too. I share the same affliction. So for me, it was like being locked up, being in those positions. It kind of made it harder for me to trust people, especially like a sponsor or a mentor or anybody like that. When I first started to get clean, was that an issue for you as well? Was that something that you experienced, like seeing as you came from this environment of you can't trust anybody, like where you're like hyper aware of like you're always on your guard, being homeless, being in jail, being in constant dangerous situations where it was like to trust someone would be to open yourself up to get super hurt or worse. Was there any issues when you first got clean with like trusting a sponsor? And do you have any advice for people out there that might be feeling that way?
There was. So being on my own since a child, um, I didn't really know how to adult, right? I'm gonna put that out there. I didn't know how to pay a bill. I didn't know anything, right? I didn't get my license till I was 29. I still drove. That's illegal, but I did it. You know what I mean? Um, but when I met my sponsor, I told her, I was like, listen, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life, right? I'm scared. I'm nervous, right? I don't really like people. Um, because I didn't. When I was in jail, I just read books, stayed to myself, But basically, I told her, I was like, I need someone to call me on my shit and be a bitch when they need to be. And she's like, all right, bet, I got you, right? And so I did interview her. It is very, very important to interview your sponsor. sometimes, right? If you don't immediately feel a connection with them and you don't feel comfortable talking to them, interview them, right? Be like, how do you sponsor people? In what way do you help people? I do tell my sponsees from the beginning that I'm not their bank, I'm not their taxi, because that's not what sponsoring is, right? There's helping when necessary, but to always hit me up for money or rides is a little disrespectful, right? Especially when you're not doing the work, right? I don't turn people away. I don't tell them no, right? I do say yes. I give them a chance. I want to believe in everybody. But I do know that I can't want someone's recovery more than they want it, right? Um, but yeah, interview sponsors. It's a thing, right? I ask sponsees all the time, like, what do you want out of recovery? What in what way is me sponsoring you gonna help you? And I really get them to think. And then my sponsor, when we got to the fourth step, which was 17 pages long, um, I didn't put everything down, and she knew that somehow, and she got it out of me, and that's how I knew she was a great sponsor, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, completely relate to that. And, like, when I did my inventory or whatever, it was the same question afterwards, "And what else?" You know? "What are you not is there anything you're not telling me?" And, of course, the answer is always yes, you know what I'm saying? I've done enough fifth steps with dudes that I've sponsored, and then, like, I've done a few with my sponsors where, like, the first read through is never the whole picture, you know?
It never is.
But, um but yeah, I mean, and I think coming from I mean, I don't know what kind of role a higher power or God played in your life, but for me, this is like it's like a new thing, you know? I mean, I kind of always had a little bit of faith that there was something bigger than me, but I just never trusted it because again, I came from uh a background where like, it was hard for me to trust people, so it was hard for me to trust God. Like what how were you able to overcome being able to trust in a higher power?
Am I allowed to talk about what my higher power is?
Of course.
Okay, because mine is not a conventional one. So I grew up Wiccan. And so I have many gods and goddesses that I pray to, right? And I did try to use Christianity, but I didn't feel comfortable with it, right? And it does say a higher power of your own conception, right? Um, and so I didn't believe at first that my higher powers would let me go through all the shit that I went through in my addiction, right? And I was angry for a while. And then I went to the Apache Lake event, Roast Roundup, right? It was my first year there. I went out on a kayak and I got stuck in a memory of something that happened to me while I was in the sex trafficking. And I cried. And when I cried and I let it all out, I felt something warm come over me, right? And that was my burning bush moment, right? And I realized in that moment that I'm alive, first off. Not a lot of people go through what I went through and actually live to tell the tale, right? I had to realize that. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm healthy, right? And I'm sober and I'm living a better life. And I may have had to go through all that to learn the lessons I needed to learn because the common denominator in all of those situations was me. I put myself in those situations to be hurt or tortured or, you know what I mean? I was the common denominator of all that. And my higher power kept me alive. And I'm here today because my higher power knew that I had a purpose. I just didn't know what that purpose was. And I still kind of don't know what that purpose is. I'm still kind of moseying on, right? Because realistically, you're never going to know. You just got to keep doing the next right thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, and like it says, more will be revealed to us, and I think it's crazy. Like everyone out there, I do believe has a very specific purpose, and I don't think that we know what that purpose is until we're actually doing it, until it actually happens. We won't even know what that's supposed to be until it happens. And then one it'll come out of nowhere too. For most people, it does. You know, you'll just be living your life, and then all of a sudden you'll stumble into a situation, and you're always like, "Oh, I get it now." You know, even if
Yeah.
that's to like fucking help other addicts get sober. You know, I mean, even with you with 6 years, you know, you're sponsoring people, you're doing events, you're helping a lot of people out there. You know, not a bad purpose, not a bad life today. Where we came from being homeless and being in horrible situations that I can't even imagine, to a life today where we get to wake up sober and we get to talk to other people about recovery and like bettering their lives, you know?
Yeah, I do. I do know.
I think it's amazing what you guys are doing with CMA. I think that's incredible. So all right, I know you said you can't really plug any events, but is there anything that you do kind of want to let people out there know about? Any meetings, or like if they want to get a hold of you, is it cool if we put your contact in like the comments, or have them DM you if they want like a service commitment with CMA, or like to get involved in H&I or anything?
Yeah, you can put my phone number in the comments description, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm
Awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
always
I think
open to sponsoring. I can help you get a service commitment. Definitely there to help anybody who wants to get involved.
that's amazing. And yeah, we'll definitely put your contact information in the comments, or in the title of the video, so that, you know, newcomers reach out to you, or even if they're not a newcomer and they're not happy with their sponsor, you know what I'm saying? It's never too late to change. Uh Yeah, I think it's amazing what you guys are doing, and I just want to say thank you from the spot for putting on all these awesome events there. You know, I mean, all the ones that I was behind the counter for that you guys did, I think I've been there for two of them now. They've always been super entertaining, and like a lot of people show up to them. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we do pretty good. We do pretty good at putting on events. I enjoy it. It brings everyone together, gets them out of the house. For a couple of hours, they're still sober.
Yeah, and it's in a positive way too, you know, and that's the point. I mean, I think a lot of people out there who are just getting sober are like, "I'm never gonna have fun again." I like dare you to go to one of those things and like not see people having fun. You know what I'm saying? It's incredible. I mean, I knew it was possible to have fun in recovery, but like I'd never seen. I mean, it's crazy. Like you get 50 ex tweakers in a room drinking super coffee. Like you're gonna have fun. Like it's gonna be ridiculously entertaining one way or the other. You know.
Right. Exactly.
But thank you again for doing this today, and congratulations on 6 years. That is absolutely huge. And I just want to say thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Of course.
Anytime.
Well, thank you. Actually, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I won't take up too much more of your time. Is there anything you want to let people know about home groups, events, anything that's going on?
So the spot is having CMA Rocks is hosting their Valentine's Day event coming up February 7th at the spot. They will post a flyer on the spot's page to help people navigate that one. And then I will post a flyer for the new ENF event coming up in around Easter. I'm not sure what day yet. We haven't decided, but it's going to be super fun. It's something different. I don't think we've done it before, and I'm excited about it.
That is awesome, and I definitely look forward to the Valentine's Day event. Last year's was crazy. But all right, again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Bye.